time for Voice of Indie. Your hosts today are Beem Weeks, author, producer, and marketing monster for independent multimedia publisher Fresh Ink Group, and Stephen Gies, author, producer, composer, and publisher for Fresh Ink Group.
Hey, greetings, everybody. Welcome to the Voice of Indie podcast, show number 48, getting closer to number 50. I am your host, Beem Weeks, and with me, as usual, you guys might have heard the tapping noise in the background over the music. That's my co-host trying to get his Twitter open, Stephen Gies. How you doing tonight, Stephen?
I'm doing all right. I got in right as the song was playing. I don't know what the deal was with it today, but we're back into Twitter again here, and I see we've got a tweet from Helen Burrell. So we've got a lot of exciting news this week. Kanoi K's book, My Three Wishes, about being a Polynesian review performer who traveled the world with her family. And boy, she's got some cool pictures and a whole lot of fun stories. Her memoir, My Three Wishes, is out now in pre-sale, and the release date is July 7th, which happens to be her birthday. Happy birthday, Kanoi. And it's always exciting and fun because Kanoi received her print copies in the mail today, and I got the phone call. And that's always a fun phone call because, you know, our authors, and I think, you know, all indie authors out there who are, you know, putting some time and effort and enjoy quality, that feeling of pride when you open that box and pick up your book and hold it in your hand and flip through it and touch the cover and, you know, depending on how weird you are, rub it all over your body or whatever, is always a lot of fun. And this was Kanoi's first book, so getting that phone call was a hoot. In the meantime, we want to encourage everybody, check out her video for My Three Wishes in the Fresh Ink Group channel on YouTube. Get over there to your favorite retailer, wherever you are in the world, and place your order now. It's in pre-release, and it will be out on July 7th.
Yeah, getting that first book, especially the first book, but you know, you get to a point. All the books that you publish, when you it's finally done and it's in your hands, you know, that's such a cool thing. But I remember that first time having a copy of Jazz Baby in my hands, and it was just like, oh my gosh, this is real. It's all that hard work is paid off. So, also we have Robert G. Williscroft's Arctic Sting from the Mac McDowell Missions series is now populating over on your favorite book outlet, be it Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and if it's not there when you go to check, give it a day and it'll pop up there. So it's going to be everywhere.
That's Operation Arctic Sting, a Mac McDowell mission, and it's book 3 in the series after Operation Ivy Bells and Operation Icebreaker. See that, Robert? I remembered the name of the second one this week. We also have exciting news. Karen Ingalls, who many of you know, she's dear to all of us. Her book, Learning About Autism, is going to be published tomorrow morning. So with a little bit of luck, by next week's show, we should be promoting that you can get out there and purchase your copy. We're very excited about that. We're also excited that Susan Hughes, who's the proprietor of My Independent Editor, has agreed to join Gies Writer, gieswriter.com, which is the website we operate as a writer's resource, where we have various people who offer their services or expertise to independent authors and help them put together their books, or in the case of Trent and Bennett, help them produce audiobook versions of their books. Anyway, that's over at gieswriter.com, and Susan Hughes is going to be setting up a shop over there to offer some advice and help and resources for writers, too. So by next week's show, we should have her on there and be able to point you that direction, too. So welcome to Gies Writer, Susan Hughes.
Welcome, Susan. Good to have you there. And over at Gies Writer, I'll throw this in. Even for writers, if you're new writers and you're struggling on how to, you know, construct a scene or a sentence or dialogue or narrative, go over there to gieswriter.com. There's all kinds of cool information there. It's a teaching tool. So
yeah, definitely.
Now, for this show, if you missed an episode or you want to listen to an episode from a previous week that was a cool episode. We've got a lot of cool ones in the archive. And you can find the archive in 5 different places. You can go to FreshingGroup.com, BeamWeeks.com, StephenG's.com, and at those 3 sites, click on the podcast tab, and they're all there. You can also go to our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube, type in Freshing Group, and right there, boom, you will find all of the videos. You will find cool book trailers and other stuff there as well. So, and while you're there, remember to hit the subscribe button. And if you watch the videos, hit the thumbs up. This really helps us out. It does. We're trying to grow this thing and make it bigger. And we're also on Spotify. So if you have a Spotify account, just type in Voice of Indie, all one word, and every episode we've ever done is right there at your fingertips.
All right. Now, listeners, we're looking for some participation. If you want to talk to today's guest, have a comment or a question, you can call in. The phone number is 516-453-992, or you can use our hashtag. We've got a little roll-in that'll give you the details.
Call 516-453-9902 right now with your questions or comments for tonight's guest. Or post a note on Twitter with hashtag Fresh Ink Group in the body of the tweet, and we'll read it on air. That's 516-453-9902 or hashtag Fresh Ink Group on Twitter.
Yeah, that sounds really rock and roll. Right.
I'm telling you, I want to party now.
Now, last week we had a giveaway for Helen Burrell's American Agony book. And we have winners for that, 2 winners. Melissa Lerner, please contact us. You left a message on the American Agony book trailer over on the YouTube channel. So please contact us. Go to the go to the Fresh Ink Group website, FreshInkGroup.com, and there's a contact form on there. And give us your details, and we'll get you that book to you. And also Jessica from New Hampshire, she called in, and she is one of the winners as well. So congratulations to those winners. And this is something we're hopefully going to do a little more often, is do some of these giveaways.
Yeah, now we've been announcing that we're going to give away a book, and then each week it has turned into several copies of the book. So, boy, we're feeling generous over here at Voice of Indie. We also enjoyed the fact that during last week's show, while we were talking to young Ellie Collins, our 14-year-old author who has a trilogy, a Greek mythology series, a friend of hers, Noah, young man, called in and had some very nice comments and questions for Ellie. We'd like to reward him, too, and give him a book. But American Agony really didn't seem like a book for a teenager.
Yeah,
so
no.
Over here on the shelf, I have a couple of copies that are first edition prints of Ellie's Greek mythology series. So these are rare. I mean, she wound up doing new covers that her father did the artwork and made some changes and updated the books not too long after they came out. So these first editions are very rare. Noah, we're going to send you a copy of one of Ellie's first edition books, and then if you can catch her and get her to autograph it for you, well, there's no telling what that might be worth in auction someday. So a copy of one of Ellie Collins' Greek mythology series books is going to one of last week's caller, Noah. And again, we appreciate you calling in. Thanks, Noah.
Hey, yeah, congratulations, Noah, and thanks for participating last week. Now, this week's giveaway is going to be Strange Highway, short stories. That's one of my books. And to be in the running for this, it's a hardcover. And if you're the winner, I'll even autograph it for you, sign it, inscribe it, whatever. And in order to be in the running for that, go over to the YouTube channel and find the Strange Highway video book trailer and leave a comment. You can also call in on tonight's show, 516-453-9902, and with a question or a comment for tonight's guest, and you'll be in the running for this book. And you can also be in the running by tweeting on Twitter using hashtag Fresh Ink Group. And again, it can be just a comment for tonight's guest or a question for her, but you'll be in the running. And this week also, to be in the running, if you'd like, go to my blog. That's the indie spot, which is, I believe, beamweeks.wordpress.com. beamweeks.wordpress.com. And leave a comment on the first article that's there. The front article is a book review, so just leave a comment on that, and you can comment on the article, or you can comment saying, "Hey, sign me up to be in the running for the book," whatever. Just go over there and do that, and you'll be in the running.
Yeah. Now, that video over on the YouTube channel, the Fresh Ink Group YouTube channel for tonight's giveaway book, Strange Highway, we had a lot of fun making that. Beem wanted a Rod Serling kind of a sound. Now, Ellie and Noah might not know who Rod Serling is, but a lot of us, who are a little bit long in the tooth are certainly familiar with him. But it was a fun video to make, and we put some cool effects in there and hired a professional guy who managed to get that Rod Serling sound we were after. So we're kind of proud of that video. Go check it out, and at the same time, leave a comment. And if I remember right, let me look at my little rundown here. We might be playing, yes, we're playing that commercial tonight, so you'll get to hear the guy's voice. It's a lot of fun making these videos. They're a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. So how do people learn about the show, Beam?
Well, they can sign up for the newsletter. We have a weekly newsletter that goes out every Wednesday morning, the day of the show. And this newsletter is not just about the show. You'll get new book releases. You'll get updates on authors, video book trailers, audio books, and just all kinds of really cool stuff. And it's not a long one that's going to take you, 2 hours in the afternoon to read through. It's a quick read, and if you want to sign up for the newsletter, go to the Fresh Ink Group website, freshinkgroup.com, scroll to the bottom of the page, and there click on the button for the sign up, and we'll get you on the list.
Terrific. Now, before I read today's guest's bio for you, I'm going to mention a couple of things that we're seeing over here on Twitter, because one of them is a nice little segue into today's guest. First of all, Verwayne Greenhoe left a couple of comments. He says, "I remember my very first paperback. I thought I was walking on clouds." Yeah, we all remember that, Verwayne. It was so cool. It's just, all that work and then to hold it in your hand. Very cool. And then he followed that up with, "Long in the tooth. Why, I'm so old I lost my teeth a decade back." Laugh out loud. I've still got most of mine, but I can't say all of them. And then as a segue, and by the way, Robert Williscroft added, yeah. But as a segue into tonight's guest, we have a comment on Twitter from Dr. Helen Burrell. She says, "Wow, I enjoyed D.L. Finn's website, dlfinnauthor.com. Novels, short stories, children's stories, poetry, a novelette." And then she says, "Wow, wow again." Thanks, Helen. That's a great endorsement. And that's a great way to introduce today's guest, Denise Finn. And she goes by the author name D.L. Finn. That's initials D.L.F.I.N.N. Denise is an independent California local who encourages everyone to embrace their inner child. She was born and raised in the Foggy Bay area, but in 1990 she relocated with her husband, kids, dogs, and cats to Nevada City in the Sierra foothills. She immersed herself in reading all types of books, but especially loved romance, horror, and fantasy. She always treasured creating her own reality on paper. Finally, surrounded by towering pines, oaks, and cedars, her creativity was nurtured until it bloomed. And bloom it did. Her creations include children's books, adult fiction, a unique autobiography, and poetry. She continues on her adventure with an open invitation to all readers to join her. And on that, we invite Denise Finn to join us on the Voice of Indie podcast. Hi, Denise.
Welcome.
Hi, Steve. It's Stephen and Beem, and thank you, Helen, for the nice tweet.
So do you want Denise or DL?
Denise is fine.
Okay.
Okay. But remember, when you're looking for her books, you got to punch in D.L.F.I.N.N, and a wealth of great books will pop up.
Thank you.
So how about we start with where you're from?
Go ahead.
Oh, originally, I'm from the Bay Area. Spent my first 28 years there, and then my husband and I decided to up and move to live in the woods. So we moved everything up. So we've been here about 31 years. Of course, that kind of just aged me, but love where we live, love living in the forest. So
you know who Rod Serling is.
Oh, absolutely. And I loved that video, by the way. I thought that, and I loved the book. That was just a fabulous video.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
Cool endorsement. You're welcome to come back every week, Denise.
Yeah, that was a great book, but that video, I just loved it. Of course, I'm a big fan of The Twilight Zone, so.
Yeah. For me, it was Night Gallery. That was.
I love Night Gallery, too.
Yeah, for me, that was his peak. But the Bay Area, that's my favorite part of the United States. I just love to go out there and visit that whole area. I was out there about, month and a half ago with a friend. I met him from, he came from another part of the country, and we did the Monterey coastline and hung around San Francisco and the whole area, and went up to Sausalito and some things like that. A lot of things were still closed, but it's still beautiful country no matter where you go. And
some of my favorite spots. Yeah, it's beautiful there. Spent a lot of my youth in the Santa Cruz Mountains, so.
Ooh, yeah. Those are some of the most beautiful mountains in the country as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, they are.
And I love to go up to wine country. Sonoma's more my valley than Napa, but it's just beautiful up there. It really is.
It's a beautiful area.
Yeah. So, what kind of kid were you? What kind of childhood was it like growing up in the Bay Area? Were you into reading and writing, or were you a gang member, or what was going on with young Denise?
I can't say I was a gang member, but I did read a lot. Kind of on my own a lot. I had a lot of friends, but we spent a lot of time in the library, oddly enough. They had like a little place you could bring your records and listen to them, so we got all like the, Peter Frampton or whatever, the new ones. We'd all rush in and get to listen to them there. So that was pretty cool, and I was friends with the librarian and got a lot of good books. And then when I found Stephen King, of course, that took me off in another direction. But I was a bit wilder, I have to admit, as a teen. But I was a good, normal kid.
Yeah, when you're a kid, especially, back what we call back in the day, for those of us who know Rod Serling, being a kid who'd go into like the local library and show an interest, those librarians loved to see that. They always did, and they would do anything to help you find what you wanted or to recommend things for you. And I mean, I got to where, I'd walk in the door and it'd be like, hey, there you are, and I set aside a book for you or whatever. And it's nice that people care that much about making sure that kids read and discover a world a little bit bigger than themselves.
Oh yeah, and that was in school too, that we had such a big library and all the extra amenities like that. And she just took interest in everyone, so that made a difference.
I love the school libraries from I think first grade on. Well, kindergarten, couldn't read, I could a little bit. But in kindergarten, the teacher's reading to you. But by first grade, and you're really starting to learn, you go to the library. We talked about this last week. I can remember the first book that I got out of the checked out that I read, and it was just like this incredible thing. These words go together, and they're telling me a story. And I was hooked just hooked right off the bat.
Hooked, I was too. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. That was it. There's so many books, you go in there and you're just like, gosh, I could stay in here for days and not have to come out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, we do have another comment on Twitter. This is from a recent guest on the show, Jan Sykes, who's an author down there in Texas. She also has a wealth of wonderful books that everybody should be out there discovering. And she wrote, it's so great to have @DL Finn author on the show tonight. She is an amazing writer and a great person. Wonderful comment, Jan. Thanks for posting that.
Oh, I appreciate that, Jan. The same back to you, Jan.
So, Beem, you want to start knocking out some commercials and then come back and talk to Denise about her family? This one is going to be the Mac McDowell Mission series because, as we said, we just published the third book in that series, Operation Arctic Sting, a Mac McDowell Mission. And it should be populating in the retailers any minute now over the next couple of days. So here's the video trailer that we just recently made for it.
Now, from Fresh Ink Group and best-selling author Robert G. Williscroft, the Mac McDowell Mission Series. With a security clearance above top secret, Saturation Dive Team Officer in Charge Mac McDowell leads his team into critical Cold War counter-Soviet missions. Watch Mac prove what brave men can achieve under real pressure, the kind that will steal your air and crush the life out of you. In Operation Ivy Bells, it's the summer of 1972 when Mac and his off-the-books deep-water espionage group are conducting a daring undersea wiretapping operation to gather Russian intel and avert World War. Join nuclear submariner Mac McDowell for extreme diving, a battle with giant squid, and more as he risks everything in the most dangerous operation yet. In Operation Icebreaker, Mac McDowell is leading his submarine team for a mission to lay SOSUS arrays under the Arctic ice when they clash with a highly automated Alpha-class Soviet submarine. Overwhelmed by mechanical problems, the Soviet crew abandons their sub near Point Barrow, Alaska. The skipper launches DSR-V-1 Mystic so Mac and his crew can board the empty sub and gather intelligence. The arrival of an even more advanced Soviet sub leads to breathtaking underwater clashes, with the specter of war looming. Will Mac and his crew be sunk by the Soviets, or will they safely return to Alaska, where Mac's new love, Kate, anxiously waits? In Operation Arctic Sting, Mac McDowell and his team capture the abandoned Soviet sub. Piloting their prize through the ice pack to the U.S. East Coast, they must evade or confront other Soviet subs trying to recover the ship or sink it. Breathtaking deep-sea clashes erupt, including hand-to-hand combat with Soviet Morskoy Spetsnaz divers under the ice. Too far from Toothus to escape, the Americans are accosted by a 5-ton orca. Will Mac's ship survive long enough to reach friendly waters, or will the men become just another meal for a deadly whale? The McDowell Mission series by Robert G. Willis-Croft is available worldwide in jacketed hardcovers, paperbacks, ebooks from Kindle to Nook and Kobo and more, plus exclusive audiobook editions with music and sound effects. The Mac McDowell Mission series is proudly published by Fresh Ink Group. Take a breath and dive in for thrilling submarine adventures in every Mac McDowell mission.
Yeah, and remember, Book 3, Operation Arctic Sting of the Mac McDowell Mission series is populating on Amazon, on Barnes & Noble, and all the other booksellers. So get out there and check for it. And if it's not there when you first go to look for it, give it a day. It'll pop up.
Yeah, now that voiceover was Trenton Bennett, who was a recent guest on the show. He's an audiobook producer and a voice actor, and he did a very fascinating episode. We went the full 90 minutes because he was talking about giving advice on how it all works and how to get into producing your own audiobook or finding the right people to work with if you want to start putting out audiobook versions of your books. Trenton is also a recent joiner of G's Writer. So if you go to G's Writer, you can find him over there giving information and advice about audiobook production. And, of course, you can contact him through G's Writer and talk about it, too. We've already heard from several guests who listened to the show that night who've let us know that they talked to Trenton, and he's got an audiobook underway. We're also in the process of producing the audiobook for Operation Arctic Sting, which has Trenton Bennett as the reader. And, of course, we add the sound effects and the music and try to make it sound like you're really there, which when it's a submarine book is a lot of fun because, boy, we got to learn what all those different sounds in the sub are.
And there's a lot of them.
And there's a lot of them, and we got to make sure it's authentic. So we're probably only a couple of people in the world who know what the author is talking about when he says, I want the Gertrude effect on that, or something of that nature.
And it's not your Aunt Gertrude screaming in the background either.
No. My favorite is every time the sub changes depth, we have to put creaking sounds in there because the hull always makes a creaking sound. So, again, that's Operation Arctic Sting. Go check out the video, like it, subscribe, and let's keep talking to Denise Fenn, today's exciting author.
Yeah, now, Denise, you had mentioned that you and your husband had moved. Okay, so you're married. Children?
Right.
Pets?
Yeah, we've been married just 38 years a couple weeks ago. And
well, congratulations.
Yeah, married young. And, yeah, we've been doing good. And we have 3 kids. We have 2 daughters, both in their 30s, and a son in his 20s. He's up in Oregon in the middle of that horrible heat wave up there.
Jeez.
He said it was 113 in Eugene.
Wow.
I can't even imagine. And we have 5 cats, a dog.
5.
My daughter's dog. Oh yeah, we they find me. They hunt me down. Every stray animal seems to find me. Our daughter's dog's living with us, and we have pets, wild animals surrounding us at all times. And my daughter and her husband and 2 kids are also here for a while, and it's a full house right now. So, in fact, right before I got on the show, I was out staring down a deer. So
Ooh,
he was eating a bird food, which was kind of strange to me.
Yeah. But doesn't it seem like these animals are almost telepathic? When animals find a good human like you and your husband, word goes out somehow, and more will always come find you.
I've kind of got the impression they put the word out. Go to that house. They'll feed you. So it keeps us busy, and I love all the bears and everything else we got around us. So I love it all.
Now, those are black bears there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So what else keeps you busy? What kind of hobbies, interests? How do you spend your time other than writing and enjoying the wildlife and your family?
I love to take pictures. That's my other, and of course poetry is my other love. But I love to get out and take pictures and just be in nature as much as absolutely possible.
Yeah, I remember reading your book. I believe it's Just Her Poetry. That had all the photos in it. Yeah, that was
okay.
Was that the one that had the photos in it?
That might have been No Fairy Tale.
Okay, no, that's the one then. I think I've read both of them though. I got them both on my Kindle. But yeah, I mean the photos were just amazing, just beautiful.
Yeah, I was disappointed I couldn't do it in color because I really like the colors, but it would have been just so expensive to do a book with all the color.
In fact, I think I have that in the paperback that I had won in a giveaway somewhere.
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Denise and all you authors out there are thinking about publishing. There's a couple of trends that have happened in the last year or two, and that's that interior color printing has both dramatically improved and come way down in cost. We're doing color interior books now where a lot of our authors are opting for putting out a paperback with black and white pictures so they can keep the price as low as possible, and then doing a nice jacketed hardcover edition with color pictures inside for the people who want to spend a little bit more and have a nice keepsake edition. But it's gotten to the point now to where it's less than 2 cents a page difference in the printing. And it used to be you had to go to premium color categories in order to get that good look. And now what they call standard color printing from companies like Ingram, which runs Ingram Spark and others, it's beautiful printing. We switched, like Tammy Trover's book about cancer, surviving cancer for children and families, is all interior artwork because it's Cornelius the cancer-fighting crocodile. And we switched her book from premium color to standard color last year when they got all the big new HP presses, and we were very impressed with the quality. So maybe, Denise, you might want to think about going back sometime and putting out a color edition.
That's a great idea. I'll have to go. I am at Ingram, so I'll have to look at that.
Okay.
I hadn't been paying attention, so that's a great idea. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of writing, how long have you been writing, and what's the evolution of your writing?
Probably always, but I would say when I took a course in high school for creative writing, I really started getting into it. So that's what kind of, and in my English classes too, I always loved to write. Even if it was a paper for history, I just loved to write. So I kind of got in through that way, and, you know, did stuff on my own. When I first got married, I'd stay up late at night writing things in my journal, and about 25 years ago, I did start to get some things published or try to, and got a few things in magazines, but I couldn't, you know, I was getting really nice rejection letters back in the day, but then my health took a turn, and I just went back to it more recently, and went back to college, and, you know, focused on English, and did a few things that way, and took some more classes, and, you know, learned basically I've just been learning for the past 20 years, and then I decided to self-publish in 2015, which is an interesting story within itself.
Well, let's hear it.
Well, it was Friday the 13th.
Uh-oh.
February, Friday the 13th. And I had to go to the bathroom. It was really cold outside, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to make a mad dash to the bathroom. Well, we have a rug with a bear on it, and I was running over it and didn't see our black cat laying in it, so my foot got caught under him, and I went flying, and I heard a snap on the way down. So I went down, and the cat just watched me the whole time completely. You know, what are you doing? Oh, you're laying here with me now. Great.
I am not amused.
And I couldn't get up, and I'm thinking, my husband sits up and he goes, why are you laying on the ground? And then he went back to sleep. I'm like, well, thanks. So I finally had to get him up to get me up because I couldn't move. And so that's how I broke my foot. We waited till the next day to go to the doctor, but that's how we spent Valentine's Day that year, was in ER with my broken foot. And then I was laying around so much, my son-in-law kept saying, why don't you publish something? He goes, you got nothing to do. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. So that's why I did it. I was just laying around doing nothing, letting my foot heal, and I decided to publish my first book, and it's from there just kept going.
Yeah, now when I write an author blurb to put on the back of a book cover, I love to end them with, and she had nothing better to do.
I really didn't at that particular point. There's only so much TV you can watch.
I just like the connection between Friday the 13th and the black cat was involved.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was telling that story in ER. They were all laughing. I amused everyone with that story.
The converging storm that created a career.
Yeah, you can't make that kind of stuff up.
No. Now, I heard a rumor that you like to ride poetry on some kind of a vehicle, a skateboard or a motorbike, or what is it that you write poetry on?
It could be the back of a Harley.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I was on a kick where I thought I'm going to try to write poetry on as many different places as I can. So I did it on an airplane, and wherever we were, I'd try to write something. And I thought, well, why not while I'm on the back of a Harley? Because I get really creative when I'm in the wind and all the nature's around me. And I thought, why not? So it took me a while to figure out how to do it. I had a little tiny journal stuffed in my pocket and 2 pens. And I was able to put it against my husband's back and write. It was quite a challenge, but I've never lost a page. I did lose a pen once, but that's about it. And I've been able to write and read what I wrote later. And so I've actually written some actual poems while I'm there. And it's been really fun. Of course, I wonder what people are thinking as they're driving by, but...
Well,
yeah.
we got to get a video shot of that and put that at the end of a book trailer and have you just riding off with your pad in hand, and we all know the sound of our Harley.
Oh, we do. And ours is loud. Yeah, well, my daughter probably could do that because we ride with them a lot. I thought about it, and I'm like, nah.
So speaking of sound, Beem, you want to run another commercial? We're already halfway through our hour here. And this one would be for My Three Wishes, which I told you about earlier in the show, the Polynesian review dancer from Hawaii who traveled the world with her family and has all the stories to tell.
Hi, I'm Sonoy Kay, born and raised in Hawaii. At 19, I made 3 wishes: to travel to Japan with my Polynesian review troupe, to entertain on ships cruising the seas, and to travel while working for the airlines. My 3 Wishes is a heartfelt memoir pursuing my dreams and bringing joy to appreciative audiences around the world. I achieved my wishes and more, creating a life that I cherish and others admire. See the pictures and hear my stories in this remarkable chronicle of sharing love and success with my children, a wonderful affirmation of Hawaiian ohana, the idea that true happiness dwells within the family. My 3 Wishes is proudly published by Fresh Ink Group in jacketed, hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats worldwide. Aloha.
Now, that book is an example of what we just talked about. She did a hardcover, dust-jacketed version of the book where all of the pictures inside are in color. And those include, some famous people like Ringo Starr and Sidney Poitier. But then the less expensive paperback version is black and white pictures, so that way it's affordable for people who want to keep their costs down, but those who want to have a nice keepsake edition can get all the pictures in color. We also want to mention, too, that if you find the My Three Wishes page on Facebook, she has posted close to 800 more color photos of her years traveling with her family, and there's a lot of fascinating stuff to see there. So we encourage you to go check that out.
Yeah. So Denise, since you write in so many different genres, you do the short story, you do poetry, and all that good stuff. Where do your story ideas come from?
A lot of times when I wake up in the morning, or it'll wake me up, I will have an idea, and I'll write like maybe the first paragraph, and that they can, or I'm in the shower, which is really inconvenient. Or sometimes when I write poetry, I also get ideas from the poems. I've actually, one of the stories I was working on was from a poem. So, matter of fact, Tree Fairies came from poetry too. That originally started as a poem because I was listening to my husband's song one day because he had written a song, and it reminded me of fairies dancing. So that's where the poem came from, and then I went from there.
Wow. That's actually a good suggestion for authors to consider, too. That really struck me, that notion of when you get the idea at the awkward time or place and just make the effort to write that first paragraph. That, I would think, when you come back to it later, when you do have time and it's the right time and place to work, that would open up your thoughts again to where you were back when you first had that idea. That's actually a very good suggestion. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works.
I've done that with short stories. Right.
Yeah, it does. Once you get down the initial idea, then you can kind of take off from there later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Denise, how do you work? Once you have an idea and you're starting to get it down on paper, do you just write it all the way to the end, or do you use beta readers? Do you share it with your friends? Do you have your work edited by somebody outside? How is it that you get all these together until you're happy to have them ready to publish?
I usually go through the whole thing by myself, although lately I've been using a critique group, but everything's been written beforehand that they've gone through, and I'm going through and editing as they go with me. So that's something new, and I'm really liking that. I mean, I'm getting some ideas, and they're catching sentences where we're all just having a good laugh over that I, forgot to put a comma, and it reads so. Matter of fact, I'm starting to write them down. I think this is going to make a good post someday of all the ridiculous things I've written.
The blooper reel.
Yeah. Some of the things I'm just laughing so hard. I realize I'm saying the head's moving around by itself. It's not attached to anything, and it's like, oh goodness. It's amazing what you can miss because you look at it so many times. And so, yeah, I do write all the way through, and then once I'm done, I re-edit, and I kind of get caught up in that, and everything around me disappears for a while. And then I have beta readers, and then after that I go in and fix it again. Then I do have an editor that I found I really like. It took me a really long time to get to that point to find a good editor. But
you want to share who that is?
Well, she's from Artful Editor. Her name is Denise also, and she's just landed, and she's wonderful. She's from the Bay Area, so I write a lot of my stories set in the Bay Area, so she'll catch stuff that normally, unless she lived in the Bay Area, you wouldn't catch. I'm like, oh, yeah, I shouldn't have said that. So it's wonderful to have somebody catching me with things, and she's pretty patient with some of the things that I've put in books that she catches. So
okay, well,
I'm really happy.
Listeners, if you're interested in trying to talk to her and learn about her services and what she could do for you, shoot us a note. We'll talk to Ms. Finn here and make sure we can connect you. It's always good to find a good resource, and somebody who's endorsed by a quality, high-caliber writer like Denise Finn is a really good endorsement indeed.
Yeah.
And I've had some horrible editors over the years, so I speak from experience. If you find a good editor, don't let them go.
Yeah,
exactly.
Definitely.
Exactly.
And, critique groups can be very, very useful, too. I like that idea. Every now and then you'll get, a screwball who wants to, say some crazy things. But for the most part, they're very earnest people who really care, and they want to do their best to help you put out as good a product as possible. How did you find your critique group, or how would you recommend people go look for one?
Originally, it was through a book group I was in where we got put together, and then at the time we kind of bonded together. I didn't think, I don't know if this is going to work. I was working with people, and then all of a sudden it just clicked. There's three of us right now, and we've actually become very close. We have conversations all the time and send each other, vacation pictures, and it's amazing how close you become to them.
Yeah.
And you start caring, and you really do, cheer them on and want to see the best for them. And I become so involved in their stories. I feel like I'm writing them too with them. I'm just like, oh my gosh. So, yeah, it's wonderful. If you can find a couple of people to work with, however you find them, it's a wonderful, because I didn't use it. I probably started last summer, and I've done 2 books with them. So.
Wow.
Terrific. A lot of people see, the life of a writer as being very solo, very isolated, somebody who goes out into, the woods in California and comes up with ideas and puts them down. But it really is, it takes a village. It takes the people who can give you the feedback and offer the support, and then sometimes, depending on what your skills are, help you with the different kinds of services that it takes to put it all together. So it's terrific that you found some good people. And,
we help each other, and we each have a different skill. I'm more like a reader, so I give them that perspective, and we have one that's a teacher and one that just gives good showing, instead of telling all the time, and she's always, telling me, don't do that. I'm like, okay.
As long as she doesn't make you stand in the corner.
Yeah, I didn't have to stand in the corner for this. So.
Now, if any of these people put out books of their own, when a new book comes out, let us know. We'll put it in the newsletter and see if we can help get them some exposure too. Because we're all about trying to help indie authors, indie musicians, indie artists, indie creators of all kinds try to get the word out and let people know what they can do.
Yeah, and I want to say here, for a lot of these the newer authors or authors that are the lone wolf types, it is imperative that you have a second and even a third set of eyes look at your work. And it's not necessarily that, you wrote it wrong or whatever, but you are too close to that story. I'll spend months and months and months working on a story, and when it's done, I get on Skype with Mr. G's here, and I say, let's read this. I'm going to share my screen, and you read it, and he reads it out loud, and at that point, I'll hear something in there, or he'll see something, and, I need to fix that. That's not, it doesn't flow, or whatever. It's not just about, poor punctuation or something like that. It's about the flow of the story, the flow of a sentence that stands out like a sore thumb in the middle of a paragraph that, change that.
And the encouragement is always good, too. It's not just the negative, like, here's a bad sentence, or, you got that punctuation wrong, or, I don't understand what you're trying to say here. Figure out what you're trying to say and say it. It's not always that stuff, too. Sometimes it's that opportunity to hear somebody go, ooh, or pause or smile or whatever, and see the reaction and see what is working. And that little bit of feedback sometimes can really buoy you and sustain you on those hard nights working, all night long in the woods in California trying to come up with another paragraph.
I make sure I always say what I like and I don't like. I'm always, I think that's important equally.
Yeah, you have to be able to be honest.
To know you need to know what's good in your work as well as what isn't working.
Yeah. Now, Denise, who are some of your authors out there that have inspired you? Who are some of the ones that?
It used to be that I loved, the authors on the bestseller list. I was always a Stephen King and Dean Koontz and so many, all those type of authors. I loved a lot of romance authors and that type of thing. And over the past few years, it's become indie authors. That's basically all I read now. And you both are one of that. I've just loved your work, and I could sit here and list all the authors I love, but it would go on for a while because I have quite a list of must-buy authors now. And there's just so much amazing work, and it's so creative, and I think it's I tried to read a Dean Koontz book recently, and I put it down. I go, this is the worst edited book I've ever seen, and I'm thinking, and this is professionally done. So I was thinking we've really come a long way. It's just really good work, and my preference at this point.
Yeah, and that's interesting that you say that. And by the way, we do have a caller on the line, so we can go to the caller here in a minute. But it's interesting that you say that, reading a Dean Koontz book and finding errors and whatnot. And I find them all the time because I still read the Stephen King stuff, and I still read some of that stuff as well, although I'm like you. Predominantly, my Kindle is full of indie authors. And I just think that indie authors they put so much into it. It's still a passion for them. At this point, Stephen King is probably not quite the passion it was early on. Well, here's a story idea. I'll throw that out there. James Patterson, he farms out his ideas and lets other people kind of shadow write them for him. But with us, the indie authors, I mean, it's still that excitement about creating this, about crafting a world and characters. And it's just, I mean, for me, it still is. It's still a blast when I get something finished and looking at it and saying, wow, this is my next release.
It's from our hearts, too. Nobody's telling us what we have to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's from the soul.
One of my favorite parts. Now, before
right.
we take that call, Beam, we do have a comment from Jan Sykes over on Twitter. She says, I totally agree about critique groups at D.O. Fenn Author. I have the same experience, and it's so wonderful when everything just clicks. It is.
All right. And I have to thank her for the critique groups, too. So.
Yeah.
Robert Williscroft posted a comment there. It goes back 21 minutes ago. So he says, and these guys are doing a really great job. So I think that was when we were talking about maybe the new releases coming out.
Yeah, and Jan Sykes says, that's great news about color printing. I did not know it had come down in price. Yeah, the come down in price has been very helpful, but the increase in quality is what's really making that work. Because for a while there, the cheap color books looked cheap, and now they don't. They look really nice. So keep that in mind, Jan.
All right, let's go to the phone. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. You're on the air. Where are you calling from, and what's your name?
Well, I'm calling from rainy but beautiful Florida. This is Karen Ingalls.
Hi, Karen.
Karen, hi.
Welcome to the show.
I'll be seeing your name a lot tonight.
Yeah. Well, I am such a big fan of Denise's, and I have felt a connection with her from the first time I read a book or got to know her. There's no way you've been married 38 years. I think you've missed a few years, young lady.
No, it's very true. Married to 20.
Well, then you must have gotten married when you were about 6 years old.
Yeah.
No.
Well, you're a very talented and versatile writer, and I love everything you do. And it's so good to hear your voice, and I just
wonderful to hear your voice too, Karen.
Yeah.
Hi, Karen, and I love everything you've done, and I did feel that connection with you too. So I've always adored you.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, I'm going to hang up and wish you continued good luck.
Oh, thank you. You too, and congratulations on your upcoming release.
Oh, okay. Well, Gary has been working very hard with me on this. We're trying to get that deadline taken care of. So, all right. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for calling, Karen. All right.
Beam, you want to run another commercial here? We promised Strange Highway, and then we'll come back and talk to Denise about her books, see if we can stir up some interest.
All right.
If you ever find yourself on the Strange Highway, don't turn around. Don't panic. Just keep going. You never know what you'll find. Could be an autistic young man conjuring magic with his fingers, or one girl's afternoon leading to a lifetime of loss, demon or angel, a winged man revealing his true nature, a mother's recognition bringing closure to her daughter, sudden death of a teen boy stifling burgeoning secrets, black man's guitar transforming one young boy, decades-old accident bringing a desperate confession, supernatural first love healing a broken family. Head on down the Strange Highway and see more stories unfold. Need a ride? This book will get you there. Catch an e-book or get on the bus with a nice print edition you can hold and keep, perhaps a full-sized trade paperback, or ride in style with your own dust-jacketed hardcover. Fresh Ink Group's got you covered. You can exit the Strange Highway and come back anytime you want. You see, now you know the way in. Don't be a stranger.
All right. So that's this week's giveaway. So if you want a signed copy of Strange Highway short stories, I believe there's 19 short stories in there. Leave a comment on Twitter. Leave a comment on the video on YouTube, or call in tonight, 516-453-9902, and with a question or a comment for tonight's guest, and you'll be in the running.
So Denise, let's talk about your work.
Okay.
As we looked into what you've been doing, we're finding you do a weekly blog, you do extra blogs, you work on a newsletter. You basically don't slow down a whole much other than when you're tripping over animals. But let's get into your books. I'm showing 7 full-length books here, plus 4 short stories. Do you mind if we just kind of run through them, and you can tell us a little bit about each one and try to stir up some interest in our listeners?
Sure.
Okay, so your first book that you published was Elizabeth's War, is that right?
Yes. Yes, that was set in 1917 and 1918 in North Dakota, and that originally started as a story about where my great-grandmother came from. I was really curious about the area and where she grew up, so then I ended up writing a story about a young girl on the farm during the war and having to grow up and take care of some more adult responsibilities as all the men went off to war, and it was kind of her and her mom and her sister running everything. So that's where that came, and that was a labor of love. I researched a lot, and that was way back in the day when you had to get microfilm from the library, and I had to get newspapers sent to me from North Dakota. So I really did quite a bit of research for that book, down to whether they use toothpaste or not.
Toothpaste.
I wanted to know everything.
Yeah, that's always those are the kind of details that are fun to research. Now, when you were doing the research, were you actually finding out stuff about your great grandmother, or?
No, I was basically just looking at more the area, because I didn't have a lot of. I just knew where she was born, and then they moved up to Canada later. But I was really curious about the area. She didn't talk a lot about it because she was pretty young.
So did they use toothpaste back then?
They had something similar, yes, they did. It wasn't like we have now, the tubes, but yes, they did have something they could use if you were lucky and in the city.
All right.
So what is An Unusual Island about?
That was a fantasy, another kid's book, but the fantasy, and basically about this family that goes off from the Hawaiian Islands, and I do write about the Hawaiian Islands a lot because I love that place over in Hawaii. And they went off on a tour, and a storm hits, and they end up on an unusual island, and they run into all kinds of things, pirates' caves and flying people and a few other things. So it's got a lot of mystery and that type of thing within it.
How about Things on a Tree?
That one I had a lot of fun with. It was more basically about a young girl that was sick in bed and sad and didn't like the holidays too much after her dad had passed, and Santa shows up, and so they have like a little excursion, and they try to change some things that happened, but I had yenties in it and a few other things. I kind of threw in a few, but that was a fun one to write because I got to write about a little elf and a little sassy elf and have some fun with that one.
Wow. Okay, and how about just her poetry? I'm guessing that there's some poetry in that one.
That is all poetry, and I called it that because in No Fairy Tale I had 3 different things, and I thought maybe I should do just a poetry book, so that's why I called it that. But that was all, and it's all free verse, because the next one I'm working on is going to be free verse, and a lot of the symbolic poem I've been doing recently with haikus and tankas and other things I've been trying. So that is all just free verse, and I did do some poetry from the back of the Harley, and I tried to make it into seasons, and so I had a lot of fun with that one.
Wow.
Okay.
And if I can figure out how to write poetry underwater, I haven't figured that one out yet, but I'm going to work on it.
They probably have, like a waterproof, some kind of typing device, computer, little small computer or a phone that you could go down there and type on.
I would imagine there's something, but, I always go to the first, I can't take a pad and a pencil because that's where I like to write poetry first on that. But I bet there is.
We have a couple of comments from Jan over on Twitter. Jan Sykes, she says, I totally agree about critique. Oh, I read that one. This one is a great commercial for Strange Highway at Beem Weeks, and I love that book, every story. Well, that's a good endorsement. Between her endorsing Denise's work and Strange Highway today, Jan, you're welcome to come back every week.
I agree with Jan about that book. That was a fabulous book and a great trailer.
Well, thank you. Okay, how about This Last Chance? What's this about?
That was the third book, and it didn't start out to be a series, so I'm going to rework all the covers again and make it obvious that it's a series, because I just kind of did one thing and went to another, and then I'm like, wow, this is ending up to be a series. But it's set in Tahoe, and a woman whose sister was brutally murdered, and she's trying to figure out the mystery behind it while making sure she doesn't get killed. And there's, of course, a serial killer, because there's been serial killers in my last few books, and a snowstorm, which seems to be another theme with me recently. But, yeah, that one was a lot of fun, and it had a bear, which, of course, is on the cover, which turns out that was the bear from my garage. He came in during a storm and just stood right in front of me eating the dog food. I'm like, well, okay, so I'm going to take pictures of you. And I got really close to him, and they're like, don't try it. And I go, but I want to pet him. I'm like, don't pet him.
Oh.
But I had to finally got rid of him, because then he decided he was going to go in our freezer next, and I'm like, no, you're not going to do that.
They're fun to watch, but you don't want to give them the spare bedroom, that's for sure.
No, we didn't invite him in for dinner or anything, but I was amazed how close I got to him, and I got some really great shots of him.
Now, that was a cool cover. Another cover that I especially like is Dolphin's Cave, which is a young girl riding a dolphin or a porpoise, whatever you want to call them, and with a beautiful banner across the top. What's that book about?
I just put that out in December, and that was a long time coming. It had been in editing for years, so I finally got that figured out and done and put that out. And that is about a young girl whose parents disappeared, and she's living with her aunt, and she finally got to go to Hawaii where they disappeared. And so somebody's trying to, kill her aunt, so she's kind of involved in this mystery and keeps seeing people, and it has to do with, going underwater and another world. I do have another world that she's from and her family's from. They live, under the sea. So
cool.
That's where we went with that one. So that was another one that, like I said, I do a few set with Hawaii. And matter of fact, my niece did the first few copies, the covers of my children's books. She's the one that did all the drawings for that.
Oh, nice.
Except for the last one.
Tree Fairies and Other Short Stories.
That's the latest book.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the one I was saying that I wrote that from a poem. Like I said, my husband had written a new song, and I heard it, and it reminded me immediately of fairies flying around the trees. So I wrote a poem, and then I went from there and wrote a story, and that pretty much sat for like 25 years. And then I pulled that out because I'm kind of getting rid of all my children's books because I want to focus on my adult books for a while. So I was just finishing them all up, and I pulled this out and added 2 more short stories to it and just kind of made it a collection. So that was kind of and I really have had more fun with the fairies than I think anything. So
wow,
that was a lot of
25
fun.
years. That's you got me beat. I thought I've got one that I've been sitting on working on here and there for the last 8 years, and I thought that's getting ridiculous that I'm just not doing anything with it. 25 years? All right, I don't feel so bad.
No, don't. And I mean, I'm talking typed stuff too. This is before I even got it. I had to put it on the computer, so it was all typed, and
wow.
That really aged me again too. But yeah, I even have the original typewriter from all that. I've hung on to that. But
now I started reading that book as we started putting this show together, and I saw that you had a new one out. I've read some of your other works. Bigfoot so far has been my favorite, the short story.
I read that
story.
But when I started reading Tree Fairies, one thing struck me, and I've noticed this in some other things that you read. The Tree Fairies is from the point of view of a 12-year-old boy. And Denise, you seem to be really good at getting into the point of view of the children who inhabit your stories and seeing the world through their eyes and interpreting how they see and feel and experience what's happening to them. And that's a wonderful gift for a writer who's trying to reach young people. And even though you say you're focusing more on adults now, don't ever fully give that up, because that's a rare trait and something that I appreciate in a good writer.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I've always been able to. I think I might be just a child at heart most of the time.
I think what it is that, you know, there's that part of you that didn't grow up, because so many of us, we grow up and become jaded, and then we write the harsh characters. But you can still dip back in there, and that's like Stephen just said. I mean, that's a gift, because there's still that part of you that hasn't grown up, and that's an innocence that remains, and that's always cool.
Yeah, having a rough childhood, I was able to hang on to my innocence in that respect. I always hope that everything's going to be okay, and I try to put that in all my books, no matter how, you know, bad the serial killer is. I'm always trying to, you know, if we're doing good against evil, I want good to win out at the end in some form.
Yeah, that's the jaded part. You know, you get old and cranky, and you got the serial killer that just comes in and kills off all the other characters and moves on.
Oh, I've written a few. I just haven't ever published those.
Writing therapy.
Yes. Well, the poetry does that to me, too. I'm able to therapy through that.
And we do have 4 short stories that can be found out there in places like Amazon. Let's start with Red Eyes in the Darkness.
That was kind of my nod to Alfred Hitchcock. I got in an Alfred Hitchcock movie watching thing, and I loved how you had a character where nobody believed them. So I kind of took that from there, and it was this couple they had a relative that was evil, and nobody saw it, and he was setting them up for all these things, and he, you know, was pure evil. And so that I loved that idea of what if nobody believes you and you're really innocent, and, you know, everybody thinks no. So I had fun with that short story.
Well, now, before we get to the next one, there's a couple of comments here on Twitter. Robert G. Williscroft, he said, there are underwater writing tablets and waterproof paper along with pencils that write underwater. So
well, then I better ask that for my birthday then.
Yes.
And
put that on my list.
Jan Sykes says, this last chance was a fabulous read, as were the other 2 books in this series. It was the angel connection that I loved. There's another endorsement.
I love working with angels. Yeah, I love angels and fairies. I guess that's just kind of my thing. Now,
the next short story here on the list is Bigfoot. I read that one some time ago and thoroughly enjoyed it.
How do you pass up a title like that?
You can't. And, you know, funny enough, that came from, I was reading an article in the paper about a local lake, Lake Davis, that they were poisoning the water to kill the pike. And, of course, I just kept thinking about that. And then that didn't work, and they had to use explosions, and that didn't work, and they had to drain it. And I'm thinking, that's going to a lot of trouble to kill a fish. So then, of course, my mind started thinking, what if? And I'm like, well, what if they were really trying to kill Bigfoot? And there I went.
That's a writer.
Yep.
That what if.
Yep, those what ifs are real fun sometimes.
And how about The Long Walk Home?
That was another one that dealt with the evil and the evil dwells like the other books, and that was a woman that was walking home and very suicidal, and everything's going wrong, and she goes to a park and has like a angelic experience and is saved basically in a way, but also has a serial killer in that one too. But yeah, same thing. Good and evil. Always got to have that serial killer.
Well, that's what makes the good stories.
It really does. I enjoy it a little too much sometimes, but
yeah, you know, some of these stories are, you know, the good and the evil, and the good always overcomes the evil. But some of the really well written stories, the evil walks away unscathed. Reminds me of No Country for Old Men. You know, here's this psychopath, and this guy walks away. All the people that you think are maybe the heroes, they get whacked, and this guy walks away at the end. So it works from time to time.
It does. You're right about that.
How about I Wouldn't Be Surprised? What's this about?
Okay, well, during the COVID thing, when it first started, it was Easter, and my husband and I were sitting alone around the table, and we were just joking around, and I was doing I wouldn't be surprised if aliens landed on the front lawn. We were just having we were just laughing and just going on, and well, 2 nights later, somebody actually came down our driveway in the dark, and you got to realize we live in the middle of the forest, and we have a really football-long driveway coming down to us. It's full of trees. There's no street lights or, sidewalks or anything. Walks down our driveway in the dark, not even in a car, and leaves us a plate of bread and leaves. We have it on the camera. We have a video camera out there, a security camera. We don't know who this person was. None of our neighbors. We called and asked them, or like, did you bring us bread at 11 o'clock at night? They're like, no. And we have no idea. So then, of course, my mind took off with this, and I'm like, why would somebody bring you bread at 11 o'clock at night and leave it on your back of a truck and not say anything? And so that story came from that.
Wow.
So was this homemade bread, or was this?
It looked like fagasa. Nobody was brave enough to try it. We're like, we don't know why this is here, so we're not going to eat it.
Yeah.
But thank you.
That's
maybe he was trying to.
Yeah, I'm not quite that brave.
Maybe he was trying to lure the bears back up to your house.
Well, I'm thinking it was the bear that ate the dog food, and when he takes human form, he comes back and pays people back for the food they shared with
There's
him.
a story.
Here you go. Thank you for all the food. Here you go.
Yeah, and I'll see you again tonight. Have the dog food ready because I'm going to be ugly again.
Yep.
That's a new story.
So what are you writing now, Denise?
I participated in the NaNoWrite 2 years, and this is the first year what I wrote. So it's I'm trying to think how to describe this. It has a ghost and talking animals and a serial killer and a snowstorm and all kinds of fun stuff. Aliens, government lab. I mean, I kind of threw everything into this, but it's really hard going over a book you write in 3 to 4 weeks. How fast and now you got to fix it. So that's what I'm going through right now. But I really am enjoying some of the things I thought up in that time. So
wow,
it's fun.
One of your daughters is a writer?
My youngest daughter, yes, she's like Superwoman. She likes to. Well, she has a full-time job. She works at home, and she just took up aerial dance, where they do all that stuff with the silk and those things. And she's also a dancer, and she also teaches some type of exercise. I always forget how to say it, gyrokinesis.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. Then in between that, she wrote a book, which I'm going to help her put out at some point, hopefully this year. She's getting it edited. So, matter of fact, I'm supposed to stay to read that for her. But, yeah, so she's pretty soon, which is wonderful, and I think she's a much better writer than me. So.
Well,
I mean, I may be a little biased here, but...
Well, you would recognize the quality, and you should be a proud mother. And when she's got that ready to go, let us know. We'll put it out in the newsletter and let our listeners know so they can go check that out, too.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
And maybe we can have her on the show as well.
Oh, she likes to be... She's good at that. She's a good interviewee and interviewer.
So are you self-publishing, or do you work with a publisher? How do you get these books from your manuscript to the reader's hands?
I originally started with BookBaby and did a couple through them, and then realized I could be doing most of the stuff myself, so I took it upon myself to learn how to do as many things as I could. I just learned formatting and working on my own covers. My last Fairies was my own cover. So I'm just basically, and I'm trying to just learn as many things as I can and do it myself. I learned how to, it's pretty easy through a lot of, through Kindle publishing and Ingram. And so I basically just spent some time and figured I'm going to learn how to do everything.
Yeah, and I've noticed you're using Canva now and doing your own graphics as well and getting quite good at it. So it's fun when you're a writer, but you also start developing these other talents, your artistic eye and things like that as well in order to support your work. Then it becomes a holistic kind of approach to writing.
It's wonderful. It's just I never thought I'd be doing it. I used to do Photoshop, and it's been a long time since I've gone back and, of course it's too expensive to really use Photoshop anymore. But I learned through that too. But yeah, I never thought I'd be doing all these things, and it's just so many things to learn, and it's actually kind of fun.
Now, so do you have any advice for authors?
I was going to ask that, because we have a lot of young authors who tune into this show, whether live or in the archive, and what sort of advice could you offer those?
My first advice is to read. I mean, I've met people that don't read, and if you don't read, I don't think you're going to ever learn and be a good author. Like, I think you need to read. I try to read 100 books a year right now. But I'll go 75 to 100, and I've learned.
Wow.
When you start spotting things and learning things from other authors and going, okay, that I need to do this and that, and so you really do learn a lot, and you expand yourself, because I try to read as many genres as I can, and it makes a huge difference. And so I think reading is the most important thing to do, besides learning. I mean, never stop learning as a writer. There's always so much to learn, and it changes.
I agree.
What we're doing. And of course, showing and not telling, which is I've been working on that really hard. So.
Yeah, that's a big one for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a big step up.
I tell my stories and then I show them later.
That's a big step up.
Yeah, there was a time when I taught writing classes, and a lot of the students told me, the difference between the beginning of the class and the end of the class was they read differently now. They see things that they never saw before. They notice the techniques and the styles and all the different things that they can study and learn from, while they're at the same time enjoying it and feeling it too. So I love that advice about reading. Read, pay attention, study, learn, and anytime you find somebody who's doing something you like, check out some more of that person's work, and you'll learn that much more.
Oh yeah, when I find an author I like, I try to go through their whole catalog if I can. So that's once you find somebody you like, you don't want to stop reading them.
Yeah, my big thing is point of view. I've always been a student of and a fan of quality point of view, and when I find an author who is doing things with point of view techniques and styles that I've never seen another author do, I'm there, and I'm coming back. I'm going to keep trying to learn from that as much as I can.
Oh yeah, and as long as I understand where they're at and their point of view, I don't like head jumping a lot, but.
Oh no, yeah. I don't like it at all.
At all. So Denise, where can listeners find you on social media? Blog, website, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter?
Oh, pretty much everywhere. I'm on Pinterest and Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and my website.
What's your Twitter handle? At DLFinn is what we've been seeing on Twitter.
At DLFinn Author, I believe.
Yeah, okay.
And I think it's the same for most of them. I've tried to make that a universal. I think on Facebook, though, it's DLFinn Writer, because I couldn't use author for some reason.
And how about the website? What's the URL there?
It's dlfinnauthor.com.
Oh, that's easy to remember.
Yeah, like I said, I've tried to make it because I'm very forgetful, and if I don't have the same thing everywhere, I'm in trouble.
And if people can't find you any other way, but they find themselves in the woods in the Sierra foothills, and there's a long driveway ahead of them,
leave bread.
Just bring your own bread, because that's the price of admission.
Apparently,
bread in a bear suit.
And as always, if listeners, if you're trying to remember her name one of these days, or you want to get a note to her and can't find her any other way, we've got a contact form at freshinkgroup.com. We will make sure that she hears from you, because we know where she is. And
do. And remember Dolphin, because that is what my name is supposed to sound like.
Dolphin. And
Dolphin.
Well, I never noticed that.
I was just telling my mother that tonight, earlier tonight. I said, tonight's guest her name kind of sounds like Dolphin if you say it with like a weird kind of accent. Dolphin. Hey, it's a Dolphin.
The California accent.
Yeah, California accent.
Well, Denise, we really appreciated having you, and we appreciate.
I loved being here. Thank you.
Everybody who participated tonight. We're going to see if we can give away a book or two in the next coming week. And Beem, who have we got next week?
Next week's guest is Robert G. Williscroft.
I know him.
He's gonna come in and he's gonna tell you all about the Mac McDowell missions series and the new one, Arctic Sting, Operation Arctic Sting. So tune in for that, and he's got a bunch of other books as well, which I'm sure we're going to touch on.
Yeah,
so.
we'll ask him about his Orc Chronicles series and some others
science
as well.
Fiction, a great science fiction writer, military thriller, action adventure. Just it's the whole enchilada, so to speak.
Yeah, and for those of you who are Cold War thriller fans or U.S. Navy fans or SEAL fans or whatever, Willis Croft did spend a lot of time underwater as a U.S. Navy officer in a submarine, so he knows what he's talking about. He catches us if we put the wrong kind of creaking sound in the audiobook when the sub descends.
Yeah.
Okay, and then after that, we've got C.S. Boyack. It's going to be in late July. He's a wonderful author. Many of you are familiar with his work. And then at the end of July, on the 28th, we've got Mark Herndon, who for 28 years was the drummer for the supergroup Alabama with 30-something #1 hits. We published his memoir called The High Road. And as a special guest, we're really thrilled about this, country singer Leah Seawright, who happens to be married to Mark Herndon, is going to join us as well. So the two of them will be on, and they'll talk about her work and his book, and maybe even find an opportunity to give away a signed copy. You never know. So, Beem, what happens? You've already mentioned the archives. You want to remind us real quickly again where people can find the old shows?
We are currently in 5 places. Hopefully pretty soon we'll be in a 6th place, but right now it's 5 places. Beamweeks.com, StephenG's.com, FreshInkGroup.com. On all 3 of those, just hit the podcast button and you'll see all the shows. Go over to YouTube, type in Fresh Ink Group, and you'll find our channel while you're there. Remember to hit that subscribe button. And if you're watching the videos, there's book trailers, there's every episode of this show is over there, and a bunch of other stuff. Hit the like buttons as well. It really helps us out. And Spotify. Type in Voice of Indie, all one word, and every episode we've ever done, right there. So plenty of opportunities to catch former episodes.
Now, many of you are here because you got the newsletter, but for those of you who aren't familiar, we do put out a weekly newsletter every Wednesday morning, and we announce what that night's guest on the podcast is going to be. But we also fill that newsletter with new videos, new books, excerpts, free stories, all kinds of fun stuff. So if you haven't subscribed to that newsletter, go to FreshInkGroup.com. Toward the bottom of the home page, there's a little form you can fill out, and then you can amaze your friends by forwarding that email with that newsletter to everybody you know. And while they're over at that website, what else can they find, Beem?
Go over to FreshInkGroup.com, and you'll find all kinds of cool stuff over there. Every author that we publish, and even ones we don't publish, that are just friends of Fresh Ink Group, they've got author pages, they got their work over there, their books, their videos, their links to their websites. So any author that you're interested in, you can go to FreshInkGroup.com and find them. We've also got short stories over there. We've got the podcasts. We've got all of the videos that we make. They're all run through that website. So FreshInkGroup.com is kind of the central hub for everything Fresh Ink Group.
Denise, we were thrilled to have you today. This was very exciting, and I really take to heart what was said earlier about that opportunity to hear people's voices. You know, Karen Ingalls, Jan Sykes, D.L. Finn, these are people that I've been seeing and reading for years, but to have the opportunity to talk is just a wonderful experience. So thank you for sharing your time with us tonight, Denise.
Thrilled to be here. It was wonderful to talk to you guys too.
This was a lot of fun, Denise. Thank you.
It certainly was. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
We will see you again next week.
You've been a part of Voice of Indie, a production of Fresh Ink Group. Spread the word, support our guests, then find us at FreshInkGroup.com and be sure to hashtag Fresh Ink Group.